Well, to cap off today's outstanding session, and a huge thank you to all of our speakers that have taken part so far, we're going to turn to Cointelegraph's social media and marketing manager, John Ricker, to explore the role of media plays in crypto with some of the foremost influencers in the space. Let's see what they have to say.
Greetings, universe. Thanks, everybody, for joining us at the LA Blockchain Summit and sharing your time with us on this panel. I'm John Ricker. I'm excited to be extracting the information from our very valuable guests as we talk about the role of crypto, where the media has gone as crypto is a side to it. So let's go around this 2D square and let everybody introduce themselves, what they do with their days, and the work they did to put themselves in the position they are currently at.
Sure, I'll start. My name is Alejandra. I run a community called Crypto Babes, where we teach over 20,000 women learn about crypto. A little bit about me, I actually got into cryptocurrencies in 2016. There was a classmate in my university that was mining Bitcoin. I thought it was super interesting. I started going into the rabbit hole. Then, started trading, doing all these different things. And I realized there wasn't a lot of education that wasn't very technical for women. So me and my business partner decided to create a platform that wasn't technical at all. That was just a space for women to interact, talk to each other. And we just grew really rapidly in Clubhouse. Now we're moving into Twitter Spaces. So yeah, just an exciting time to be in crypto.
Awesome. James?
Lovely to meet you all. James Bowater. Forgive the husky voice. I'm actually in Bangkok and it's already the 4th of November. So I'm a day ahead of you. About 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, I created something called Crypto AM in partnership with London's business newspaper called City AM, which is a 16-year-old newsprint publication that's distributed in London around the square mile and all the commuter stations. We have about 600 distribution points. And then obviously the world changed with the pandemic, and we went from being a purely a newsprint situation into a purely online situation. Although I'm very glad to report that from the 20th of September, which was an auspicious day, the newspaper returned to the streets of London. So that's been it's been a joy to see it back. But yeah, that's been 3.5 years of, and we were the first mainstream publisher to feature crypto. I mean, Crypto AM is a moniker. It catches all the technology. It's really more about AI, blockchain, digital assets, tokenization, and predominantly it was created as a sort of a translator to traditional finance, which is the existing audience of City AM. But it equally over time, through having networking meetings, dinners, it's all culminated into the Crypto AM Awards, which were pretty cool. On the 20th of March last year, which of course 5 days later, everyone had to go into lockdown. But it was rather spectacular return. We had a huge awards show in London just about a month ago.
Amazing. So I wanted to start, we can get into the granular crypto part of media. But let's kind of first paint a bigger picture with everybody's personal experience. James, you have some publishing. Alejandra, you got some digital. So either from your career's perspective or just personal anecdotes, how have you seen media evolve from the past to where it's at today? James, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not a journalist. I mean, let's get that very, very clear. It'd be incredibly unkind to the professional, hardworking crew at City AM newspaper to say that I was. However, when it came to the creation of Crypto AM, the idea was, I'm going to go out and learn and share those learnings with the audience. In terms of my first exposure to cryptographic currency, as it was sold to me at the time, 2014, we were raising money for the 30th anniversary of Live Aid, but it wasn't to be called Live Aid. It was going to be called the Festival of Hope. And we actually went as far as getting a gold-backed token created in the name of, the Hope Gold coin. But of course, in 2014, no one knew what we were talking about, least of all me.
Yeah.
So the journey has been very interesting, and I had quite an in-depth experience in trying to bring technology, to commercialize a technology in high-end holography. I mean, you know about the Visa Dove on the back of your credit card. Well, we were doing something called volume holography, so full color, three-dimensional holography. And one of the joys about that is that the film that we exposed it on was see-through, so you could actually see underneath, as well as having the hologram over, which meant obviously, QR codes were an important part of the solution. And it's been fascinating, and again, I keep going to the pandemic as being the ultimate accelerant of in a sense, adoption of the technology side. In as much as who doesn't now have to use a QR code scanner for the, Apple introduced the direct into the camera. So it made life a lot easier for us all, because before then we had to download a special QR reader and all of that thing, those sorts of things. So everything's become a lot more seamless. And yeah, I'm sort of waffling on a bit about technology, but it's an important aspect of what we're doing, our day-to-day lives, and how it's affected us and our interaction with the industry that we're all part of now.
Yeah, very much so. Alejandra, you can, even just from a non-crypto media perspective, and you saw James talk about how it's going towards more technology, and this medium is very tied to technology. So how have you seen, just in your life or the start of your career, how people interact and either produce or consume media change into the present day?
Yeah, it's super interesting, because I remember, back in 2016, 2017, you will see, media talk about crypto, but it wasn't such in a positive light. A lot of times it was like, it's going to zero, or it's a scam, especially coming from like CNBC, Fox, and those regular mainstream media channels. And I remember, telling my friends, telling my family about it, and they were really skeptical. It's like, well, CNBC told me this, or, all of this. But now you're starting to see a huge shift, because millennials, Generation Z, they're not longer believing this mainstream media. And they're saying, you know what, let me go into Reddit. Now let me go into Clubhouse. Let me go into Twitter, right? And that's a different, another topic, right? But people are now trusting social media influencers. They're trusting, TikTok and all these media to take them in their crypto journey. And it's super interesting, because now we're starting to see a new form of, influencer driven marketing, right? And it's super interesting, especially in crypto. And now, when we do rooms with or Crypto Babes community, we hear all the time, oh, I saw somebody on Twitter tweeted this, and is it true? What do you think, right? They're not talking about the article from Fox News. They're talking about what their favorite influencer said, or, a video they watched. And that's a huge shift. And I think it's happening because when you look into crypto, people that are usually into crypto and blockchain, they are looking for, getting out of the status quo. They don't believe the institutions. They're looking for something different. And blockchain crypto gives them that, So it's super interesting to see how it's shifting. And now we're starting to see more crypto media companies growing. I know Cointelegraph has done huge success. And, I've done freelancing before for crypto media companies. And, the number of views in the past year has increased dramatically, because people now want to hear about crypto from other people besides, the mainstream media channels. So it's an exciting place. I'm excited to see how social media shifts crypto. I mean, look at Doge and Shiba and Elon, and it was driven because of Twitter, it wasn't because somebody posted it on the news. So it's interesting, and I look forward to see the next projects that are gonna succeed. Of course, there's gonna be a lot of fails, but a lot of it's gonna be driven through social media.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I find that all quite worrying.
Of it being driven through community, Twitter and social media.
No, I think look. I mean, I'm not. You know, I mean, it'd be. I mean, I know I'm of an older generation, but I think that, you know, look, when I started the journey of education, for want of a better expression, which is ultimately it's providing information, so that people who don't have a clue what an ICO was or whatever, you know, got to understand things. But I think one of the things that slight, as I said, worries me a bit is that, you know, as Alejandra mentioned at the beginning, is that, you know, 3 years ago, yeah, I mean, cryptocurrency itself was very much sort of derided as, you know, the vestige of Silk Road style drug deals and, you know, buying guns or whatever. I mean, it's an absolute sort of, well, I'm going to not swear, but in English I'd say it's a load of bollocks. But anyway, there was no question that there was all of that. But then we saw an awful lot of I think quietly, I think there was a huge amount of jealousy from Wall Street that this huge market, which is still nascent and small compared to the traditional markets of real estate and TradFi itself. I mean, we're a microcosm. I mean, you know, how many companies are actually worth almost the same as the market cap of the entirety of cryptocurrency? I think so. Legislation has played its part in as much as, you know, these sources of capital couldn't enter the market because they were sort of prevented from being part of it. So there's been a huge amount of regulatory change, and a lot of that's been forced. I mean, I, you know, love them or hate them. You know, when Facebook announced Libra, and now DM as it's called, you saw a huge scrabbling from unexpected sources. So now we have something called CBDCs. You know, I was like, what? Where did they come from?
Sure.
And then the other aspect of change that's been remarkable has been the emergence of the DeFi protocols.
Mm-hmm.
And I think caught everyone napping. I'm very lucky in what I do, and that I get to meet. I mean, I travel. There's a friend of mine called Loretta Joseph, who's a sort of legislative whirlwind genius, and she's always going on about, you know, just show up wherever it may be, and you know, in the depths of Nigeria or wherever. I mean, and actually, ironically, Nigeria are the first people to, I think, properly adopt. I know the Chinese have done it, but I mean, you know, the Inara has come out now.
I think it might be the second.
So it might be the second, right?
I think it's
China. They flip flop between needing energy and not needing energy. Banning. I think we're on the 6th ban of Bitcoin already, aren't we?
In that vein, I know, James, you kind of have a position in a legacy model of media in publication, and Alejandra, kind of, you know, you're in that digital space as well, and so you're both at different areas of convergence of media and crypto media. So yeah, what do you think? So James, first, let's say, what do you think your company and your role in one media? So you gotta have two areas: crypto media and media.
John, it's actually a really interesting point, and Alejandra, just to give you the benefit of some knowledge that he might have already. I mean, we literally were a die in the tooth newsprint organization. All right, so you know, a newspaper that's handed out to commuters from the city, Canary Wharf, the commuter belts. And you know, when I launched CryptoAM, it was a 2-page PDF online that had no links ability. You know, there was nothing live about it at all.
What year was this?
2018.
Okay.
June the 18th, 2018 was the first edition of CryptoAM. It was a double-page spread. It was a Monday. We actually moved it to Tuesday eventually, which was great because then people would actually read it. But again, for us, the pandemic changed everything, because I mean,
Mhm.
even though I'd clearly been saying, look, my community is predominantly digital, um, there was no method of interaction other than to read the PDF edition online. And even then, the articles themselves, you couldn't interact. You couldn't, click on the button to go and visit the company that you were reading about.
Mhm.
So for me, the change has been brought about, and that's why I do bang on a bit about the effect of the pandemic.
Mhm.
Look, paper isn't dead. Actually, people love still the tangibility of a book, of a magazine. Actually, ironically, on that topic, I'm launching CryptoWendy magazine, so that's cool. But that will be online, and all the articles will be interactive. But the point is, the evolution of what I do and actually, therefore, the newspaper has pretty much been born out of the need to change. And I mean, our online audience grew pretty much. I mean, it went from about 1.2 million to peaked at about 3 point something million within a very short space of time. Unique people a month. I mean, we are not a big organization in that in audience terms, but it's
Sure.
it's not bad either.
Sure.
But the transformation has been a huge learning curve, and we've
Yeah.
all had to adapt very fast.
Wonderful. So Alejandra, in that same question, what do you think your role in crypto media and
Well done.
media in crypto in that space?
I think what I will say is help people make informed decisions, and obviously never serve as financial advice, but rather inform people of the dangers as well. I think when it comes to crypto, a lot of people hype it up. Everybody's like, oh, you're gonna make a lot of money and all these things, which you can, it is possible. But there's not, and I'm super happy there's influencers out there that also tell people, hey, you need to make sure you're using proper risk management, never invest more money that you can't afford to lose. Make sure you're looking out for crypto scams, fake airdrops, fake NFTs, rug pulls, and that's what does scare me from the crypto in media plays, that of course we're seeing, great influencers that are doing their part, but at the same time, look at what happened with the Squid coin, right? Squid Games coin, and, people hyping it up, and, people now getting paid for promoting, crypto projects. And I'm not against, paying influencers, but I think it also comes to what is the ethical standpoint of influencers, right? Because some of them do it for the good of the community. But, or sometimes, you might be reached out by a project you think is legit, and then it might not be legit, there's a lot of things. So for me, I want to move from an ethical way. I want to make sure that I am telling the community always like, oh, this is my point of view, this is not financial advice, but very much informing the community of the dangers of crypto. Especially our community is mostly women, and a lot of the women that we have, some of them, are super smart. They're developers, they're building, know how to code and all of that. But we do have a big population of women that are very new into the space. They hear somebody on TikTok and they're like, oh, I'm ready to put my money. And you're like, okay, calm down, So knowing what's your population of people that watch your videos and moving accordingly. So really just educating people. That's my goal.
Yeah. So Ben, BitBoy Crypto, you're kind of in that same space. You reach a lot of people. What mindset do you have towards your overall objective towards giving to people?
Well, the mission statement here at BitBoy Crypto is empowering people to find financial freedom to crypto assets. We know that, this is probably the largest transfer of wealth we're going to see in our lifetimes. That's why you've got, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids on TikTok that are now making hundreds of thousands of dollars on NFTs. That's not normal. So that's what we do is we educate. And we understand that different people are at different places in their crypto journey. You've got certainly the crypto degens. And for those people, I know that Alejandra was talking about Squid Games, which is a big scam, a big rug pull. We always warn people about stuff like that. But the people that are investing in things like that, they're usually not newer people. They're people that kind of understand what they're getting into. I remember reading a Twitter post from a guy back in the DeFi summer of 2020 who turned, I think it was like 1 ETH into $1 million. And he did it through a strategy of investing in totally sketchy, possible rug pull coins. And over time, he hit more than he lost. And, that is a gambling perspective. But there is a certain, faction of people in crypto. That's what they want. That's what they like. The same people that will put it all on black or red at a roulette table. But then you also have to understand there are newer people coming in, and those newer people outside of, I would say Generation Z, crypto users, most people that are coming in new are in their 30s, late 20s, 30s, early 40s. And for those people, those are risky projects. Number one, they don't even know how to get to them. And number two, that's not what they're interested in. They're interested in the top coins and, using Ethereum or Cardano or Solana, these projects to either build a stack of Bitcoin or build, another kind of portfolio. That's what we push people towards. We, of course, do cover smaller coins on the channel from here to there. We certainly do promotional videos, all 100% disclosed, because there are people that want that. There are people that want that 100x gem or whatever it might be. And those do exist. I mean, look at Solana. Solana, I think, has done, I think it's like 5,000%.
16,000%, isn't it, Ben?
Well, yeah, it's ungodly how large that percent is. So these coins do exist. We were certainly talking about Solana near the beginning, but it all obviously is kind of a more respectable project than some of these that are lower. You have to understand, like, when people are putting money into meme coins, they're just gambling, and we have to be okay in crypto, I believe, that people like to gamble and that's what they want to do. And we can lead people to, lead the horses to drink, so to speak, all we want, but eventually some are going to go wayward. And it's up to us to present the entire picture to these people and then let them decide where they fall in that continuum of crypto investors.
So that age-old adage in stock market in the old days that the minute you're getting stock market tips from the shoe shine guy, then it's time to probably get away from it for a bit.
Yeah.
Something that's very interesting recently for me, because I've been traveling quite a lot. I'm in Bangkok now, but I was in Dubai yesterday, and I was in London obviously a week before, and I had occasion to go on the tube train, between where I live in Canary Wharf and having meetings in Mayfair. So it took me on two legs of the tube, and I started seeing literally crypto ads on the train. And one caught my eye was Flocky. They say no, I'd seen Flocky on the tube train. I saw Flocky in the airport in the UK, but leaving Dubai, they were running a Flocky ad saying get in the best, and I think that the one in London, the print one, was Miss Doge by Flocky, and then at the bottom it's got this tiny disclaimer saying cryptocurrencies are not regulated in the UK. Are you seriously telling me that's your only disclaimer that you're not going to get? But it's actually true. Advertising Standards Authority is the governing body over that. Is not the FCA.
So do you think that there is in crypto media either a right or a responsibility to produce media that is different than if you're in another niche of media?
Because actually going to that point, and I'm not going to mention a name, but there was another advert that I saw, and I'm like, I'm involved in some projects in Africa, with solid gold, sort of. Not actual gold, but solid background, solid intent. I think Ben, about World Mobile and Melbourne. Just this thing. I had their PR calling me saying, "Oh, we want to run a story in Crypto AM," and I said, what is this project? And they go, "Oh, well, we've raised $500,000 or $1 million, And I said, well, how much? Okay, you want to do a Pan-African currency with that?
Sure.
Maybe go and have a chat with Charles Hoskinson or whatever at Cardano and see about how long it takes to build something like that with the necessary framework. So my point here is that I actually, for the first time, was having to question whether or not we would accept money from people who wanted to, in effect, promote themselves through a spotlight feature, which is the commercial element of Crypto AM. It's a spotlight feature, and it says partner content on it. And likewise, as Ben said, I mean, if ever I'm writing about something, or actually if I'm involved in something, I declare I'm involved in it, because my moniker is Crypto Insider, so I'm sort of involved in projects. So I just time out myself and let one of my journalists cover it or whatever, or disclaim it. But I think we do have a responsibility if we see things that look suspects.
Well, I think
investigate.
Yeah, real quick, I'd like to jump in because, it's so funny to me how influencers and YouTubers and, people on different social media avenues, there seems to be a different standard applied to us when it comes to the kinds of videos and the kind of topics that we make. Whereas the two largest media organizations in crypto, CoinDesk and Cointelegraph, as I call it, they are totally biased. If you look at Digital Currency Group, they own CoinDesk. Digital Currency Group, they own so much of what happens in crypto. And, the CoinDesk themselves, they don't do paid press releases, right? That's their way to say, oh, no, everything here is unbiased and is totally fair. Yet they're owned by the biggest crypto conglomerate that exists that has very specific holdings in their portfolio. And of course, they're very heavily linked to Coinbase Ventures, who is doing the same thing. And nobody stops to ask the questions about what CoinDesk is writing about. There seem to be like this holier than thou, website where you go there and you believe the news. And really, in a lot of ways, it's very similar to fake news we see in mainstream media. Then you have, of course, Cointelegraph, who is the actual number one media brand online for crypto. And of course, they were started by early Russian Bitcoin miners. This is all true. You can go look at all this. Their CEO is actually an independent contractor. Name me another company whose CEO is an independent contractor, and they do sponsored content all over the internet, and nobody questions them. And I think really a lot of this is misdirection, is aimed in looking at people that are making videos with thumbnails, or somebody that does something on Twitter that's, kind of crazy or whatever. But really, the two biggest media narratives driving this entire space, they're both crooked.
Sure. Alejandra, do you think that, does it depend on who you're talking to, the community that your demographic is? Does it matter if their risk profile, or what have you seen in your space?
So BitBoy mentioned something very important, that is I've seen it a lot. It depends on age, right? So you have, again, like he mentioned, those TikTok people that go into very risky, usually Generation X, they're the ones that go into these risky coins, get rug pulled, go all of this stuff, right? But when I talk to older people in their 30s, 40s, they're usually, hey, I just want to invest in Bitcoin, or I just want to do Ethereum, or like, oh, I heard about this new project, Solana. What do you think? I don't know. I haven't read that much about, they're open to all coins, but they're like, need more information. Usually coming from that more, usually when I talk to investors, now that I live here in California, I do get a lot of people that say, hey, you older, right? I want to invest, but it's not regulated. If I lose my money, nobody's going to, and that's a concern, right? But something that I've noticed is that it depends on the risk, right? So I think we get people that are new, they're not that much into risk, but we do get a lot of women that say, hey, I want to go into liquidity providing. I want to do a lot of the more, not risky, but, it takes more knowledge, more technical knowledge. So like BitBoy did mention, a lot of people that do enter a lot of these scammy coins, they are high return, but they're high risk. It's people that have a little bit more technical knowledge, or even if they don't, they might just be doing it because they saw it on a Reddit poll and then they explained it to you, they're doing it. But we get quite a few, but I have noticed it has to do a lot with age and their background, right? If they've done investments in the past, the people that have not done any investments usually are the ones that are very like just Bitcoin, just Ethereum, that's it. That's what I've seen. But we get, you know, those gems once in a while, those 40-year-old people that say, hey, YOLO, you know, but rare.
You might be insulting people by
I'm
saying
feeling really
30 and
old at
40
the
years old.
moment. I'm feeling really old now.
Yeah,
I'm
I was gonna say you might
I
be.
made it to 50 and I'm like, yes. Anyway, but actually it's quite funny that I'm with the LA Blockchain Summit and you're in California. But I mean, obviously filmmaking is another perfect example of you know, there's no rhyme or reason to sometimes having a successful movie, is there? So that's why you have a portfolio approach, and you know, you probably do 10 movies, and one of them, probably the one that you least expect, made for the less money. These money is 1000x that they rely on. I don't think there's anything wrong at all with you know, speculative approach, as long as you do know what you're doing. And I think that although regulation, you got to ask yourself, why are they regulating? I mean, I very much got into the space because I'm quite passionate about fractional ownership and giving the man in the street the ability to, you know, access the you know, the sorts of deals that were the preserve of the cabals of hedge funds and insurance funds and all that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of the resistance to crypto and digital assets, particularly, which I think is the next. I mean, it's not the next. It's huge, obviously. I mean, the ability to digitize assets and seamlessly transfer them at a fraction of the cost is a massive opportunity. There's a lot of, you know, the lot of self-protectionism that comes with the regulatory frameworks, but I think that there have been a lot of good strides being made now by, you know, I mean, in the US, you got that wonderful lady, Senator Loomis, Cynthia, you know, who's doing great work. You got Caitlin Long, who's just been amazing about getting the messages out there, but you're doing it from within, you know, the traditional world. Okay. And to an extent, that's why I've got a responsibility, obviously, but the traditional audience that we have within the City of London, obviously these guys are inherently, you know, governed and only used to regulatory frameworks. So I like to think that we're heading now in the right direction, but an awful lot of that's got to do with the fact that they've played catch up.
Yeah. So it is kind of a theme of the community that you are talking to. And
Yeah.
I do want to talk about fractional ownership, especially as it comes to businesses and communities. But let's kind of start generally just from a business or brand perspective. How important is it, especially in a crypto community, in a crypto niche of media, to be building a community? Do you leverage most of your community with your business? What are your thoughts on that, everybody? Alejandra, you want to start?
Yeah, something that I've noticed a lot with when community, right? When it comes to building a community, I always see it as a give and take, but more give, right? Always be adding value. So, for example, the best influencers I've seen out there that do crypto, they're the people that, yes, of course, they have to monetize, they have to make money. I'm not against that, right? But they're the people that are always constantly giving value. They're the people that people are talking about them and asking questions about crypto. They have articles out there. They have interviews. They're always doing things to help the community. What I will say is something that has helped Crypto Babes grow is having this community, because again, we get all types of women, and we realize that a lot of women that don't come into crypto is because, you know, they go into this, you know, boys club in crypto sometimes, and they're just talking very technical. And I remember being that person, and I'm like, I don't even know what to ask, because I don't even know what they're talking about. You don't know what you don't know. And we created this community of there's no such thing as a dumb question, and people coming into the room of like, hey, like, what is a smart contract? And what is Bitcoin, right? Like, people will come and ask us, what is Bitcoin? When you will go into other communities in Clubhouse at the time, right? And you will go, hey, what is Bitcoin? And they're like, what do you mean you don't know what Bitcoin is, right?
I think there still is that barrier. I think there is. And actually, at my recent summit, we had a panel called Educating the Grownups in the room. It's not just the kids who don't understand what the hell we're talking about. It's the grown-ups, the
Usually it's the
traditional,
opposite.
the advisors. And when I say advisors, I'm talking about the professional advisors in terms of law firms, accountants and bankers. And they're like, what the are you talking about? I haven't got a clue. So, and I think that one of the joyous things about the explosion in DeFi specifically has been the eye-opening speed at which it's happened. But still, let's not kid ourselves. It's like around about $1 trillion. I mean, it's nothing compared to the traditional markets. However, it is being taken very seriously, and the methodologies there are pretty amazing. They're complex. They're you got quants with brains the size of mountains who are sitting in their little coding bubble. I mean, the most valuable people are the people who are doing the smart contract stuff on DeFi. If you get it wrong, you see what happens. Everyone gets their money sucked out.
Sure. BitBoy, how does your production studio and business as a whole interact with its community?
Yeah, so we have the largest crypto in all the largest crypto community in all the interwebs, as we say. We have over 5 million total followers. We're inching up towards 5.5, 1.3 million on YouTube, or 1.35 million as of today. We have 630,000 on Twitter. We have 330,000 on Instagram. We got 2.7 million on TikTok. Then we have our audio. We've got a subreddit. We have a community text line. We have everything that you really want when, in your arsenal. We have multiple Discord servers, Telegram groups. From the beginning when I started this, it was always for crypto. It was always for crypto. It wasn't for, myself. It wasn't for some kind of fame. I never thought I would be the largest community. That was not a thing that even went through my mind when I started this channel. It was all about, what can I offer the most value? I did multiple videos per day when no one watched. People see my channel now and they're like, oh my gosh, it must be so easy. It was not easy. I will tell you that. I had a video just less than 2 years ago that had 150 views on it. I get that in the first millisecond when we post a video now. And it was a lot to put in all that work and not get any return on that investment. But at some point, something happened. The channel grew tremendously. And that is a testament to my community and a testament to the way that we treat our community. Our community is family to us. I want to see, there is nothing I'm prouder of in the world than when we go to meetups. We've got a meetup on Friday night in Las Vegas at the Venetian. We've done multiple meetups around the country. We always have about 400 people that show up, 300 to 400 people. They come, they want to take pictures, they want to talk, they want to ask questions. We do an AMA. But the thing I'm the most proud of is when somebody walks up to me and they show me their portfolio. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if they're showing me $3,000. I've had a guy show me $10 million, everywhere in between. Okay. What matters is they are proud of what they've built, because everybody is at different financial levels. To one guy getting several $1 million and being able to retire, that's huge for him because he thought he was going to be working a dead-end job forever. You got somebody else, for the first time ever, they can afford to live on their own, or they can afford to go to college if that's what they want to do. And those are things that we're really, really proud of. The production level and the professionalism that we brought to the crypto YouTube space that, is at this point, as far as our production level goes, I mean, it's untouched right now, is that we offer to the community more of a mainstream channel. And there's a lot of people out there that do not like that. They don't like the fact that we're the mainstream bridge that brings people in. In a lot of ways we are, and we do that. But we always wanted to have a place. There's not a difference between our quality and what they're watching on Jake Paul or what they're watching on other famous YouTubers, that they're especially for the Generation Z, a lack of production quality today. It's really inexcusable, especially if you've already started building. If you're brand new and you're starting something, then yeah, I understand. But the idea that we have is, there's a lot of YouTubers out there, we call them the Lazy Millionaires Club. They never inch up their production because they're not interested in, and I'm not calling out anybody specific, and a lot of these are great people. I'm not saying they're not good people. What I'm saying is, they've got no incentive to continue to offer better things to their viewers. And that's what we strive to do. And that's why we have a brand new 38,000 square foot studio that we're going to be opening soon. That's why we have built a gigantic, conglomerate of studios here in our current building right now. This is what we have wanted to do, is to offer the community things that other people just aren't offering them. And it's obviously had an appeal, but we're very passionate about that. And I think community is the biggest thing that's caused us to grow.
Yeah.
I mean, just to add something really quick, BitBoy mentions community, right? We have to understand that anything in crypto is community driven. You cannot have a cryptocurrency project blow up if there's not people behind it that believe in it. So I think you can talk about any business, but when it comes to crypto, you need community, whether that comes from, I think influencers are doing a great job. YouTubers are doing an amazing job because that's why, companies are reaching out to them. But having a community where people feel like they can ask their questions, they're creating generational wealth, they can help their pay the mortgage for their mom. Like, those are big things that unite people. And I think that's very unique that, you didn't see in the regular financial world. People don't have communities, Bank of America, or Chase, nobody cares. But here in crypto, people are having names, right? Like, for their Bitcoiners, they're having all these names for themselves. And I'm in so many Telegram group chats where people identifies, it kind of becomes like an identity, and that's how deep crypto goes in community. So I'm excited. I really do see more communities that are going to be grown in the space, and I can wait for YouTubers and big shout out to BitBoy and other YouTubers, because it's a lot of work, now that I've been doing videos and even a TikTok, people say, well, it's like 15 seconds. Well,
that's a lot of work,
right? 15 seconds that you have to do your research, that you have to, how can I make it engaging? How can I catch people's attentions in the first, right? Because this is a generation we're currently on. And I think that's why, Generation X is going into these scam projects, because they just hear flashy words, right? Like 100x%. And sometimes people feel like, oh, that's what I have to talk in a TikTok. How can I make it more engaging? Because Generation X, up there, they're just 2 seconds. So now influencers, creators have to find ways to engage in a way that wasn't seen before,
Well, unfortunately, if I could make one point on that, unfortunately, the system is rigged to where you have to do that. If you come on and you make a video explaining why Ethereum is great and you give the best fundamental reasons for it and show the best on-chain metrics, that's not sexy. That's why we always fought the battle on YouTube. Like, a lot of people say we're the clickbait kings, because we understand that what good is an informational and educational video if nobody watches it. And that is a battle that I had very early on, not wanting to make clickbait thumbnails or titles. But if you don't do it, no one will watch it. And so it's kind of one of these necessary evils in the space. When we talk about TikTok, if you can't make it hyped and engaging, no one's going to watch it. You're not going to be able to build something. I think the important thing as influencers is to remember your responsibility and to not get those things confused. To not be like, oh, this coin is going to be super hyped, so I'm going to come and I'm just going to hype it. It's okay to lead with something provocative. It's okay to have a title that's something provocative, as long as you're showing all sides of it. And you're giving the pros and cons, and you yourself are not becoming strictly a hype man.
Yeah.
What's interesting for me listening to you guys is obviously I think we've all got different audiences and objectives, I guess, and you speak to your audience, don't you? So I mean, but the one common theme that does exist, in fact, the strapline for CryptoAM is connecting the community. But in my case, it's bridging the gap between the suits in the tower blocks and also the crypto community, because guess what? Going back to educating the grown-ups in the room, it's exactly what's happening. So, one of the most powerful things that I've experienced in London has been having, we would have blockchain breakfast at Balthazar. We'd have, crypto networking dinners, and the physical interaction of people is really where my community lies, and it enables people to mix and ask questions directly. But I wouldn't know where to begin doing what Ben does. I mean, or Alejandra does. I mean,
So talking about that as we wrap up here, maybe a minute per person. What would you do now to better position yourself if you're looking back and saying, "I'm going to start this business or start this venture"? And in that same vein, what would you say to other people that are getting into media and specifically crypto media? And go whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I would say looking back on the way that I started, you know, the number one thing I think people have to realize is this is not easy. And let me tell you this, right now, it seems like people can't miss. It's like shooting fish in a barrel, getting followers and attention in crypto, but it's not always like this. And so if you think there's going to be some kind of easy journey building a community, it is certainly not. There are going to be ups and downs. There are going to be times you want to quit. There's going to be times you're overworked. There's going to be times that you're not able to see your family as much as you want to. But if you understand you're passionate and you're working towards something much bigger, which is decentralization or helping people find financial freedom, whatever it is, and you hold on to those things and just know that the hard work isn't temporary, but the building process is temporary. And people have really got to understand there's so much hard work. And like Alejandra said, it's not just the time, it's the energy output. The energy output that you have to put into this, you have to give your heart and your soul into becoming a creator in crypto. So, if I were to go back and give myself one piece of advice, even though this is advice I would say I probably took anyways, it's not easy and you got to stick it through. But there are definitely, end goals and an end game that is well worth it.
Alejandra, quickly.
Yeah, I will say stay authentic. In a world of crypto, people feel like, oh, they have to act a certain way, especially on TikTok, right? You see those videos that are being successful, and you feel like, whoa, I have to be that way, right? And of course, when we're talking about clickbait and things like that, of course you can do them in your own way, but stay authentic to who you are, because there's audiences that still haven't been reached by crypto. Right? There might be, people that are 40-year-olds and they're looking to get into crypto. They're looking for somebody that looks just like them. There might be somebody that's a 15-year-old that's looking for somebody that looks like them. Stay authentic, but at the same time, stay ethical. That's the best thing I will say to anybody, because the more you grow, you're going to get reached out by a lot of people and a lot of projects that will offer you money, that will offer you things. But you need to know, okay, the community is more valuable than the money I'm going to get. The long-term vision is more, right? So like when you look at these projects that are offering you whatever they're offering you, look really deep, right? So that's the biggest advice.
James, last word.
I think my advice to myself would be probably don't go to as many openings or whatever as possible, because I swear to God, my waistline and my liver has suffered horribly. So that's my humorous look back. But no, it's the downside of showing up is the as Ben said, the amount of travel, the time. You don't build a network, through sitting at home. It's tough. I'm exhausted most of the time, and as I said, quite a lot of snacking on the way. So probably stop eating the pies, James. There you go. How's that?
No pies. Great advice. Appreciate it, Alejandra, James, BitBoy, Ben. Thank you for your time. Thanks to everyone watching. Enjoy your night. Enjoy the rest of the summit.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.